Hey, Tiny Texture here from Cheap Tattooing. Today we're going to talk about applying a tattoo stencil and keeping it on during the whole tattoo process for hours and it not coming off. I've been getting a lot of emails and questions from people on how to do that, and I know you guys have been watching a lot of videos on YouTube and watching people do the tattoos and them doing their tattoos, and they wipe and wipe and wipe and their stencil's still staying on there. I'm not going to do the tattoo, but I will show you how to put the stencil on there and how to keep it on there. We're going to use stencil stuff today, and I'm going to put it on there and I'll show you how to apply it the right way, how to keep it on there and everything. And as long as you follow these steps, you should be able to keep your stencil on there for hours and it not come off at all. And it should stay on there throughout your entire tattoo and it not come off at all. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, you need some antibacterial soap, or your green soap, whichever one you prefer. I use Dial spring water antibacterial soap. It works just as good as green soap. It's the same thing. It's no different. Antibacterial is antibacterial. I don't care what they say. It's just the same. You need alcohol. I use 91% alcohol. Now it's very important that you use alcohol. First, prep your area that you're going to put your stencil on. Take your antibacterial soap, wash your area off with your antibacterial soap, wash it good, then use your alcohol, and I'll wash the area with the alcohol for a good minute. I'll wipe it off for a good minute at least, just to get all the oils out of there and make sure that all the oils are out of there really good first, just so that the stencil applies really good. Make sure that you shake up your stencil solution really good. Apply just a little bit of your stencil solution. It don't have to be a lot. Spread it around. Let that dry. You don't want it too moist or too wet. I'll wipe that off on my shirt and hand there. Now I printed this off with my dot matrix printer. If you're unsure, now my dot matrix printer prints these off really good, so it's hard to tell which side is which side when it prints them off. So just make sure that the shiny side is facing downward when you put it on. You can blow on it if you want to. Kind of lay it down where you want it at. Into the position where you're going to have it at. Now, part of the secret of doing this is to leaving it on there for a minute. Now, as you notice over here on this side, I don't know if you can see that, I don't have there's no stencil solution over here, so I'm going to kind of peel this back just a tiny bit. I'm going to kind of spread this over here. I'm going to touch that back down there. And wipe that off on there. Now you leave it on there for about 30 seconds to a minute. You peel that off. You're going to have a perfect stencil on there. And your stencil's still really good. You still have almost a perfect stencil on there. So you can reuse your stencil again. Let me try to get a close-up of this here. As you can see, it's almost a perfect stencil on there. Now you want to let that dry for 10 or 15 minutes. So you want to prep your other stuff first. You want to go ahead, get your other stuff ready. Now, on my other, now I don't have a wet rag or anything, but on my other videos, it'll say to get a wet rag and lay on top of this and press it down. And you can do that with a wet rag or a dry rag, but I would use a wet rag first, lay on top of this, lay it right on top of it, press it down for just a minute with the wet rag, peel that off of there, and then do it again with the dry rag. And what that does is that gets rid of all of the extra stencil stuff that's on there, and that way you don't have it spreading around on you while you're trying to do it. Now, the other thing is now that that's on there, we'll be able to take and you want to use real Vaseline. You don't want to use generic Vaseline. You can, but I don't recommend it. You want to take a thin layer, like a really thin layer of Vaseline, spread it over the whole thing, like paper thin, like almost so that you can't even touch it. Take your paper towel again, lay it on top of it, just kind of spread it out on there. And what that'll do is that'll help get rid of some of that extra stencil stuff that's on there still. Now, when you're wiping, as you can see, I can wipe on this and you can still see the stencil stuff. That's why you want to use the wet rag, is to help get rid of that. But now, when you're doing this, you only want to put just where you're, just a tiny bit wherever you're doing it at. You don't want to put any more anywhere else. You don't want to put big old globs of it anywhere or anything like that. And I can sit here and I can wipe on this all day long and this is going to stay on here for good now. And I can pretty much scrub on this, even adding stencil stuff. So just add a tiny bit of Vaseline to it, wipe, do your lines, tiny bit, just dab it, just lightly wipe it. Don't sit there and scrub on it. When you go to your next line, just a tiny bit, just dab it, just put a tiny bit, just a tiny bit of Vaseline. If you get too much, wipe it off. That's the secret to how these guys are keeping it on there. They're just adding a tiny bit of Vaseline. They're not adding very much Vaseline at all, and they're wiping it off really softly. They're not adding very much at all, and they're wiping it off. And you can use a wet paper towel or a dry paper towel, and if you want to, you can even take and put some Vaseline on your paper towel and spread it around on your paper towel before you use it, and use your paper towel to spread the Vaseline around while you're doing it, so that you don't get too much Vaseline while you're spreading it. And you can still see the lines are still there while I'm doing this, and you can see I'm pressing really hard on that, and the lines are still there, and those will stay on there for good, and those will stay on there until I'm done. But go ahead, try it out. And this stencil stuff is really good stuff. It'll last you for a long time. It does an excellent job. It's some of the best stuff that there is out there. I highly recommend it. But you should be able to keep your stencils on there. As you can see, I can keep that on there really good. There you go. If you guys have any questions or anything, or you guys want to know anything about anything, feel free to send me messages or get a hold of me at Google+ Cheap Tattooing. Thanks a lot, guys.